I want to play another clip that I thought was pretty interesting. Here we go.
Americans on issues like immigration reform, gun control, voting rights, climate change. All of those right now are facing stiff, united opposition from Republicans on Capitol Hill. How far are you willing to go to achieve those promises that you made to the American people?
Well, I'm good. Look, when I took office, I decided that it was a fairly basic, simple proposition, and that is I got elected to solve problems. And the most urgent problem facing the American people, I stated from the outset, was COVID-19 and the economic dislocation for millions and millions of Americans. And so that's why I put all my focus in the beginning. There are a lot of problems, but all my focus on dealing with those particular problems. And the other problems we're talking about, from immigration to guns and the other things you mentioned, are long-term problems. They've been around a long time. And what we're going to be able to do, God willing, is now begin one at a time to focus on those as well. And whether it's immigration or guns or a number of other problems that face the country. But the fundamental problem is getting people some peace of mind so they can go to bed at night and not stare at the ceiling wondering whether they lost their health insurance, whether they're going to lose a family member, whether they're going to be in a position where they're going to lose their home because they can't pay their mortgage, or the millions of people are going to get thrown out of their homes because of the inability to pay their rent. So we're going to move on these one at a time, try to do as many simultaneously as we can, but that's the reason why I focused as I have. And here's the deal. I think my Republican colleagues are going to have to determine whether or not we want to work together, or they'll decide that the way in which they want to proceed is to just decide to divide the country, continue the politics of division. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move forward and take these things as they come.
And just to follow up, Mr. President, can your presidency be a success if you can't make progress on those four challenges: climate change, immigration reform, gun control, voting rights?
Well, I plan on making progress on all of them, but that's going to be for the American people to decide. I think, I doubt whether, maybe you did, maybe others did. I thought, many of you thought.
So I don't need to read that I don't need to listen to that whole thing. So there's a few key things in there. Peace of mind, Mr. Biden, President Biden says. I was elected to solve problems. No, you were elected because you were the last guy standing to get rid of this maniac. There was nothing, you weren't elected for anything about you particularly. You only ran on one promise, $15 minimum wage, which you've already moonwalked away from. So when he says we need to give peace of mind so people don't lose their health insurance, so people don't get evicted or foreclosed on. Yeah, I agree. The only problem is you, Mr. President, stand against all those things. And you haven't done a damn thing to give anybody peace of mind, temporarily or permanently, that they won't lose their health insurance, that they won't be evicted, and they won't be foreclosed. Let's go down the list. This is a man who has said, if Medicare for All, which has 70% popularity, let me repeat, 70% popularity. This is a man that says, we're not going to, if it comes to me, I'm going to veto it. In the COVID relief bill that, the media has been spinning as, oh, Biden's the new FDR. Oh, this is like the new Deal. There's nothing about what happens when the music stops. What happens when the crisis is over? What happens when the pandemic is over? You got something for these people that owe $10,000 to $20,000 in rent, are behind 10, 20, maybe more $1,000 on their mortgage. Your buddy, President Obama, he let the banks run wild on these people in 2009, 10, and 11. Foreclosures as far as the eye could see, Obama allowed, because he was bought off by the banks. Mr. Hope and Change took more money than anybody at that point from the banks. Well, Biden, if you noticed in his CNN town hall, he used the phrase, our bill gives temporary eviction relief, temporary foreclosure relief. Well, you know, the New Deal wasn't temporary. Well, it was temporary because, the right wing and the right wing Democrats started taking a machete to it. The New Deal had permanent change, permanent programs, permanent structural programs. This COVID relief bill, to his credit, the child tax credit, good. Some other things are good. It's all temporary. So what he's saying about giving peace of mind, how does anyone have peace of mind that in your COVID relief bill, you gave, I think it was like $60 billion or something ridiculous to Cobra, the biggest for-profit healthcare scam on planet Earth? You know about Cobra. If you get fired, you could pay like $600 a month or something obscene just to keep your employer, just to keep your insurance from your previous employer. You got to pay $600 a month plus the normal deductibles, plus the normal copay. Nobody could afford that if you've lost your job. That's what they did in this COVID relief bill. Instead of expanding Medicare or even expanding Medicaid, they increased subsidies to Cobra, i.e., gave more money to their private healthcare donors and sold it as relief to you. Talking about gaslighting. So the bottom line is, this guy's full of the 1.9 coronavirus stimulus. I don't want to totally crap on it because there are some good things in it. But it's a Band-Aid for an economic gunshot wound. We saw after the 2008 financial crash, these companies, they didn't hire back everybody when times were better. They just squeezed more juice out of the orange. They squeezed more. They just made workers do more with less. And we're going to start seeing that. By the way, the last time I checked, I think the last jobs report, there were still 40% of the jobs that were lost in March and April have not returned. Let me repeat. 40% of the jobs that were lost in March and April in 2020 have not returned. So Biden could spin it all he wants that help is on the way, which is another clip he said. Is help on the way? They keep saying poverty has been cut in half. Yeah? How so? Temporarily it's been cut in half. So what happens when the pandemic is over? The poverty just goes back by 50% by these temporary measures? How about a journalist ask, why do we have so much poverty in this country, Mr. President, that it has to be cut in half? Why has all the wealth in this country shot up? Look at that. Productivity, 240% increase. Hourly compensation, pretty much flat. So why are we in such bad shape? Why is it that if a pandemic or some unexpected disaster comes, millions of people lose their job, millions of people lose their health care? Because, key word, he said, we want to give peace of mind. Well, there is no way for anybody in America to have peace of mind that they are going to be protected, that if they get sick or they have an unexpected health problem, that they are not going to go bankrupt because you, Mr. President, believe it is moral and it is right and it is just that people basically need to be employed to see a doctor, that people need to be employed to avoid bankruptcy from a medical disaster. That's your belief. That's your philosophy. That's what you ran on. And by the way, you ran against public sentiment because in the Democratic primary, if you remember, every single state, including Mississippi, by the way, the majority of voters in the Democratic primary favored Medicare for all. He's against it because his donors won't allow it. That's the truth. He's against it because his donors will not allow it. If you remember, this is what Biden told his donors behind closed doors. Corporate America has to change its ways. It's not going to require legislation because I ain't proposing any. We've got to think about how we deal people back in. So this statement right here, which he told people behind closed doors during the campaign, is a lot of what you saw in this press conference. It's all vagueness, West Wing, neoliberal, vague, empty platitudes. He literally admitted, the Jim Crow, the filibuster is racist. Oh, you're going to abolish it? Well, politics is, the art of the possible, I'll get back to you on that. I mean, Jesus Christ. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.